without further ado, nobody came here to listen to me talk. You all want to hear John Shulli, and in his own words, I will let him introduce himself.
Katie, thank you very much. Always an excellent intro. I'm blushing behind the screen here, so thank you very much. Um, yeah, so I'm John Shulli, Army Colonel and Republican candidate for the United States Senate here in the great state of Delaware. So I'm looking forward to do all the great things that Katie just said. And I want this weekly forum. Who knows? Maybe I'll keep doing it after I get elected. But I want to be able to touch base with everyone. And for me, give you kind of a report, what's happening, what am I thinking? And it's really I guess really it's all about what am I thinking? Because in any kind of military engagement, you're always trying to figure out the enemy's thoughts. How are they going about the battle? So knowing the commander's mind, know where he's putting his effort, energy is very important. So I want to be an open book for you and let you see how I think. So I think last week we talked about Iran. I mean, it's a kind of a long subject the last few months. And I talked about data centers. So we had a pretty good conversation about those two subjects last week. I'm going to park them for now and move on to some things that happened this week. Quite extraordinary things have happened this week. And I put it under, look at my notes here, under the category of accountability. So when I talk to folks, not just during the campaign, even beforehand, there's this kind of cold anger in America. Folks want justice. Folks want accountability for the drama they're seeing. The Jeffrey Epstein episode is probably the most visible and transparent as far as really focusing folks' anger on folks in power who have seemingly a free hand, while folks struggle to do one or two or three jobs and keep their families together. So accountability is key. Folks are really focused on the candidates, the policies, and the administration's ability to bring accountability to the issues at hand. And one of them, during Fauci's hearing in front of the Senate, was incredible, absolutely incredible. So all the things we were told during the COVID era were lies. Um, we were told that masks work, they don't. We were told the vaccine is effective, it's not. In fact, it could harm you. In fact, it hurt Fauci. He was one of the first ones to get the vaccine, and he had like a myocarditis event. So he was like one of the first ones to get injured with the vaccine, but he still pushed it. The social distancing, the kids don't get it. I mean, kids should be, removed from schools, and we should shelter folks and divide them up, and all of that was a lie. And then to see the senators just pinging him over and over again, and all he could say was his Fifth Amendment, even though he has a pardon. So to me, when I'm in Senate, and I'm sure the senators right now are finding a way, maybe it's not Fauci, but it's the entire apparatus that he moved through and used to get things done. Um, we're going to take that down. We're going to take that down. That cannot stand anymore. We can't kill tens of millions of people around the world and be in Style magazine. It's it's going to end. It's going to end. That cold anger that America has, it's been focused on Fauci, and it's going to spider out to all the folks in the organizations and the apparatus that enabled that to happen. That's not going away anytime soon. I'm going to make sure it doesn't go away. So I'm going to lift and shift to immigration again. So it was last Thursday when President Trump issued his speech. And he talked about the issues with immigration. And then the next day, you had the Director of Homeland Security talk about 250,000 non-citizens on voter rolls in just 4 states. Unbelievable. And then you find out New Jersey governor, she's trying to get ahead of the news and says, oh, there's only 6,600 that are non-citizens, only 400 voted. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Again, this is accountability. This is, as someone running for Senate, for running for office, I have to know that on the 3rd of July, excuse me, on the 3rd of November, when the votes are tallied, that they are fair and free, and everyone can say, yes, it worked. The system worked. But if we go into 3 November and we're still seeing tens of hundreds of thousands of non-citizens still on the rolls, trouble, absolute trouble. So it leads me into my second part of the SAVE Act, Save America Act. So you have John Thune, a company man there in the Senate. I'm sure he's a great guy, but right now his role as being the Heisman, you know, preventing that bill, the act from passing, is is almost as bad as Fauci. If I could say be so bold. Now I get the excuses, but they are just excuses. If he wanted to, he could push this through the talking debate. He can just go through the filibuster and have folks stay day in, day out, briefing, talking, debating until one or two people fall over, and then you can have a vote. It is possible. He can do this. This is just the filibuster is designed not to, be the adults in the room and like have a gentle and thoughtful conversation about the way forward as a Senate should. No, it's used to tie the hands of a president. It's designed to make sure a populace like we have now, President Trump, uh, does not draw outside the lines. That this president or any president stays in the boundaries of what the Senate could control and control. And you're seeing that live in living color. The Senate, the establishment in the Senate, are doing their best to keep him pinned between these two lines, drawing inside the lines. But we have 12. I'll have their names off the top of my head. 12 senators who said no. We are not going on vacation for 37 days. We're going to pass this SAVE Act. So bravo for those 12, and hopefully more, who are pushing that, and they're all Republicans, by the way. They're all pushing back at Thune, John Thune, saying, no, we need to solve this problem now because it's darn near existential to the Republic. Again, 3 November, if we can't trust that with all these Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, all these hundreds of thousands of issues with our voter rolls, and we're not solving that prior to 3 November, it's existential. It's a constitutional crisis even. So that will force President Trump prior to the 3rd of November to take executive action. And John Thune and Congress needs to make sure Trump does not have to take that kind of action because he can. He's the executive. He's sworn his oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what President Trump said last week, Thursday, and what Department of Homeland Security has said also in backup, that we have Chinese influence into our voting apparatus, election interference. So again, this is not just it's a partisan issue and yada yada. No, this is existential to the republic, to the health of the republic. So again, it's all about accountability. This is accountability week. All right, enough doom and gloom. I am hopeful that we'll get things done. John Thune's arm will get twisted enough. Maybe we'll even get a Democrat. Fingers crossed. Never know. Uh, I'd be shocked and amazed if Senator Chris Coons crossed the aisle and said, yes, we should save America. That would be a good on him and good for Delaware. But I'm not holding my breath. But I do have hope for the Senate, and I do think John Thune will see the light and pass this act, the Save America Act. Okay, some news for the future. Tentative, it's what I'm hearing right now. 25 August will be debates between myself and Katz, and for the House of Representative candidates who are battling for the primary position. And I think other debates will happen as well. So we're in debate season, and I hope Dr. Katz comes on board and is willing to do battle with me in the debate arena. And it should be great for the voters, for folks to understand who am I, who is Katz, and who is one man enter, one man leave kind of scenario. So I'm looking forward to it. Okay, Katie, that's my update to the state of Delaware, and over to you for Q&A.
Thank you, John. We're all looking forward to that debate. Hopefully it does happen because it is what the voters deserve, and it's important for everyone to know that you are pushing as hard as you can on your side to make sure that they have a fair decision in front of them. So how we do our Q&As for those of you who have never joined us before, when you receive your registration link from lovely Gina, you will have the opportunity to submit a question. So we go through those first because we like to give our early birds the worm. And then everybody is free to put their questions in the chat. And I've seen already some, and I appreciate them, and we will get right to them. So from our registration form, this person would like to know, if you were in the U.S. Senate right now, would you vote for the 2027 NDAA?
Oh, yes. So yeah, a lot of controversy with the NDAA. One, 1.5 trillion for Department of War. I'm going along with that. Why am I going with the 1.5 trillion? It's a lot of money. Oddly enough, it's still nowhere near what we spent during the Cold War on a yearly basis. We're still under the kind of, I'll say, war footing that we had during the Cold War. And we also still need to rebuild our military and get it up to scratch. Not just for, say, smacking around Iran, which is happening now, or Iran, but building for the future, like the Golden Dome, um, making our facilities around the world, our bases and forts in the United States, uh, energy independent, having their own micro small reactor to keep the lights on during a combat situation or natural disaster. I think that kind of innovation is spilling over into the civilian sector, and you know many towns and cities in the United States will soon use small modular reactors, nuclear reactors, to power their cities and towns and TVs and air conditioning and heaters and all that, and AI data centers for sure. It's all going to get powered by nuclear power. It is our most abundant and strongest form of energy we have. Like the numbers of say windmills and solar panels you need to like equal the power density of a nuclear reactor. I think you're basically covering the state of Delaware with windmills and solar panels in order to handle maybe like, I don't know, 7 or 10 nuclear reactors, small ones. So again, the power density is incredible. And at 1.5 trillion going to the Department of Defense, sorry, Department of War, is going to be money well spent. That's just in the energy sector. There's also going to be monies moved towards loans for, say, if you're a mining company and you're going to start mining rare earths to keep our defense industrial base strong and also the American economy strong. We're not going to be so dependent on foreign nations or adversaries for our resources, strategic resources. So again, this bill is a home run, and I would sign it to be blunt. Thank you, or vote for it, I should say.
Great, thank you. And thank you to the voter who submitted that question. Again, we've had some new people join, so I just want to go through the process on how to ask your question to John. You go down to the bottom of your screen. There's a dashboard there with a few icons. On the far right, the last icon says More. It's a circle with 3 dots in the middle. Please click that icon, go into the choices, and you should see a box with a question mark labeled Q&A, Q ampersand A. Click that icon and you can type your question and I will see it and I will read it out to John. If we don't get to all the questions that are asked, we have a few in the queue and wow, and time flies, then John will respond to you personally through email. That's why there is no anonymity because we really want to make sure that we get to everyone personally. So, and we do have your emails from the registration. So as soon as you think of a question, please just shoot it in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to it one way or the other. Here is another question from our registration form. This person asks if you plan on having any public rallies.
Yes, I want them. I want the rallies as soon as possible. Newcastle County is going to be my focus for the next month. Um, Not that I'm forgetting going south as well, but I think Newcastle County has basically been neglected by the Republicans for a long time. Um, it's been like, oh, that's north of the C&D Canal, and that's Democrat territory. We can't go there. We're going to stay in the South and do our thing. No, Republicans need to be strong in Newcastle County in order to win statewide elections. So yes, I will be holding rallies up north here in Wilmington and the surrounding area. So the answer is yes, and timing and place to be issued.
Great. And for those of you who would like to attend, as I'm sure we all will, please add John on social media. He's very active on Facebook. John, how is your TikTok coming?
I have TikTok. I've had it for a while now. It's the social media is very interesting for many reasons, but one of them during the campaign, you're finding that Facebook is right now the strongest as far as political type messaging we're able to do. TikTok, you have to be uh, so. So my 14-year-old, I did a couple TikToks back in January, and she ran into my room and said, "What are you doing? Take that off right now. It's terrible. It's terrible. Dad, what are you doing? Stop." So I've been having some growing pains with TikTok because it's a different form of communication. It's not a sit down for a minute or two and contemplate what the person's talking about. That's Facebook. It's like 15 seconds. It's less or 30 seconds maybe. Even then, it's folks will still flip if you don't have something like POW. Anyway, it's for the newer generation, and I know the administration has started pushing onto TikTok now that the data will be staying in the United States. The deal was made with China, so all clear for TikTok.
Great. So, folks, please follow John on social media on TikTok and Facebook. And if you'd like to keep up with events that are happening, go to the website, www.shulli.org, and sign up as a supporter so we can put you on our mailing list. You can also see all of his events that he will be attending in the events page, which is a heading you can see on the site. And that way you can meet him at public events, farmers markets. He'll be at the Wyoming Peach Festival on the 1st. So he's really out and about. He'd love to shake your hand, meet you in person, and get you involved. So, on to our next question. This voter says there is a lot of apathy towards national politics within the conservative base. Delawareans and the American people demand America first. We need a candidate who can not only promise the right things, but deliver on them. Is John prepared for a fight against entrenched foreign interests and a compromised Trump administration that have unseated America First stalwarts like Thomas Massie?
Hmm. So in any political movement, you're going to have. Let me rewind. What is Make America Great Again? Make America Great Again is a vision, and so for any vision, it's not designed to be prescriptive or descriptive. It's vague enough that anyone looking at it has their own view of what is Make America Great Again. Because it's impossible to have 300 million plus Americans all have like the same idea of what one thing is. Not possible. So making America great again or America first is going to be seen from many different angles all at once. And folks will have debate, angst about the way you look at MAGA, the way you look at America first. There's always going to be this friction. But the most important thing is, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, is we're still going towards that vision, regardless of all the infighting and back and forth and well, Massey this and Trump that. Folks, when you look to your left and right and you see everyone moving in formation towards that goal, it's working. We are making America great again, and we're going to fight each other. Like you give me the brainwave of this example I give. I used to give Europeans because I've been around the world, and folks would ask me, John, what is going on in America? Name your time period. It was all kind of every year is crazy for folks around the world about America. John, what is America? How do they think? What's going on? And so I would tell them, all right, think of like a cartoon, like 4 blocks in a cartoon. And the first block, you had this majestic ship of state, big sails, and just cutting through the water, and the queen or the king's out front and looking bold and brave. Next slide, or next quadrant, the ship hits a rock and sinks instantly. Boo, boo, boo. Oh. Um, Next slide, you have this huge rubber dinghy. This inner tube is huge. And there's 50 people on it, all with a paddle. And the next slide, last slide, all 50 of them are going as fast as they can, hitting a rock, bang, hitting another rock, bang, 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 bang. That's America. America has lots of drive, lots of emotion, lots of energy. But the one thing we don't have is one singular policy that if we screw up, we sink. That's the old world. The old world had these kings and queens, and they still have this kind of oligarchy in the EU. And right now, if the EU ever sinks, the whole continent goes into darkness for a while. We don't have that in America. We have 50 states with everyone with a paddle. And every once in a while, maybe a brief moment, everyone does stroke in the right direction and we move forward at great speed. So we hit another rock and we bounce, we paddle again. That is America. Celebrate that. That is our strength, our ability to have different ideas, but still move forward. So that's my response to the drama you see with the America First and MAGA in the Republican Party.
Great question. We're waiting at great answer and very inspiring. So, wow, we have some deep questions right now, John. I hope you're ready. I know that you are. This voter asks about closing the Department of Education, which is something that you are very vocal about and you have been from the beginning of your campaign. She says you want to shut down the federal Department of Education and give all tax dollars and curriculum control back to Delaware. How will you make sure that our public schools still get the funding and support that they need?
Right. So, from a federal point of view, the Department of Homeland, sorry, the Department of Education was created as a political tool to help Jimmy Carter get elected. It was 1979. So Jimmy Carter needed the votes from the teachers union around the country. And what one thing they wanted more than anything else was funding, to fund their unions and to have this endless supply of money going from the federal government down to every school district in the country. And he did it. There was no education reason to have this thing. You know, we before the Department of Education, we put a man on the moon. We won World War II. You know, all the technological advances we had, you know, atom bomb, we had prior to the Department of Education. I'm stuck on Homeland Security Service. Um, so that's one. For one, we don't need this organization. It is overhead. That's not necessary. It's not necessary because America's huge. We're so diverse. We have 50 states with all their different counties and different towns and villages. It is impossible. It is not the right way to have one department on high pushing down like a Soviet Politburo, pushing down the orders from on high and have everyone move in lockstep and learn and advance the same way. Not going to happen. The Soviets tried it and they failed. We've been trying it for since 1979. Oddly enough, the same year the Ayatollah came around, but we won't go there yet. Um, so when that money, we finally cut the server from Department of Education, and we decentralize back down to the states. Your governor, your county executors, your principals will have more power. Particularly your school principals. They're the closest to the kids and parents. They should be given the maximum capabilities and capacities to move the kids through the education process. Um, you know, when you think about it, parents, they don't worry about the entire school system of the United States or their county or state, what have you. Normally, they're worried about one school, that one school where their kid goes to, and maybe two if they have a lot of kids. But they're hyper focused on that one school. And when they have to battle through multiple committees and school boards and Department of Education and yada yada, just to have something changed at the local level, that's too much. That's too much. And frankly, you have parents disengage. It's too hard. They already have a job or two. They don't have the bandwidth to come home and start a some type of committee or a pack to figure out how to crack the code on the school board. It's too much. So decentralize as much as possible. Give as much power, capability, and capacity to our principals and our parents, for the parents out there. That's the only way forward. It's proven in the past before Department of Education, and we're relearning that lesson the hard way right now.
Hmm. I understand it. And in the same vein, a little bit further down the timeline of a student, this person says, can you go into more detail about your idea to cap federal student loans? How is this going to help people?
It's already happened. So the one big beautiful bill has already capped the maximum you can take federal loans out, and I think it's like $200,000, which is a lot per year. Right now, it's unlimited. Well, before the bill, it was unlimited. There were no guards. It was just infinity. So $200,000, I think, per year. You can fact check me on that one, but it's a cap already in place, and it's designed to ratchet down over the years. Like the cap will keep going lower and lower and lower because it has to. We're paying way too much money for the education we get. We're getting crazy degrees coming out of college there. Underwater basket weaving. I'm just making fun of it, but you have these crazy degrees that are useless for kids, and they get out with debt, and they're a barista. It's terrible. So by reducing the federal free money flow for student loans, you're going to force universities and colleges and tech universities to tighten the belt, get more efficient, focus on the actual degrees that kids need and want or demand. It's going to be demand driven. So if you're offering these foo degrees and there's no money out there for these foo degrees, you're not getting the students to go to you anymore. So supply and demand will take care of that issue right away. So very glad this happened. I'm glad you brought the question because it's something that's not talked about a lot. Our student loan issue is going to start solving itself, but it's going to take a good 5 years before we really get the costs down to um, reality. And I'll add on to that. Um, there aren't as many kids going to college anymore. There's a bit of a demographic issue. Like there's basically not enough babies that have been born in the last 20 years that are going to college. And to the fact that the useless degrees, the pivot from I'm not going to leave college with $100,000 in debt and then go and be a barista. That's stupid. So folks are going into the tech degrees. We're just skipping it all together and using AI. I'm being frank. Um, the third world has been doing this for a long time now. You have folks in India, kids learning French from like a Commodore 64, and then learning how to program COBOL, and then learning how to do Pascal, and then how to do C++. All with some really crappy machines, but we're all the tech guys now. They're all in India. They took the lowest hanging fruit and they learned themselves. Now we don't need to go, we're not that bad off. So our universities they will focus on supply and demand and being the best school they could possibly be. This DEI stuff, DEI and the leftist communist stuff, that's going to take care of itself too. Because at the end of the day, you go to school so you can leave school and be um, productive in your life, fulfilled in your life because you have something that you push really hard to complete, and then you're able to take what you learn and to build and be very proud about what you've accomplished. So, all right, that's enough for that question.
Thank you. To help veterans, you want to allow them to get private health care outside of the VA system and use psychedelic assisted therapy. Why is it that you agree with this treatment?
Psychedelics. So, from what I understand, traditional methods of um, prescription drugs have not solved the issue. Um, when you have PTSD, when you have other issues. Right now, the prescription drugs you get just kind of like cover up the issues or just make you kind of ignore the problem. These psychedelics help you face the problem, help you get over it. Because now, not a doctor, I'm not going to try to examine actual ways in which psychedelics help you, but it's been extremely helpful for folks who are struggling to find a way through their maze, through their haze of trauma to get through the haze. Prescription drugs and all the antidepressants, they just keep the haze there and keep you kind of contained in that environment. The psychedelics kind of offer you a way through the maze. It helps you talk through and feel yourself out how to achieve relief and light again. So for sure, uh, psychedelics has had a really negative name to it since the 60s. You have all kinds of cartoons or bad bad drama about um, the effects of it. And for sure, if you use any drug, it's going to be pretty bad. But the medical community has finally been forced through the RFK and the MAHA movement to accept these psychedelics as a viable treatment to help our veterans.
Thank you. There's a follow-up question to that one. She asks, and are you open to decriminalizing psychedelics for other uses?
I am. Now, I am, comma, or however, comma. Um, I don't know enough about all the genre of psychedelics to give you like a whole yes. Um, I still think they are powerful drugs. Um, I would want a doctor highly trained in knowing how to, from what I understand, you can trip pretty badly. And if you're not coached through that journey, you can do more damage than the drug can solve. So, next to the aspirin in Walgreens, I don't want to see psychedelics right next to it. You know, but I do want like trained professionals who know how to guide you through the process to help you with your ailment.
Thank you. To fight the drug crisis, you said that you will treat drug cartels like enemies and terrorists, while also funding mental health and addiction recovery centers in Delaware.
Hmm.
So, where will the federal money come from to build these rehab centers?
Hmm. Well, I'll be flippant and say the government has never been short of money. There's always bills to be had, and we'll go through the Congress. We'll vote on it. We'll determine where we could pull money and consolidate it. If anything else, if you have ways in which you can get people off drugs, one, stopping the production and the terrorist activities of narco terrorists who are bringing the drugs in, who are hooking people on these drugs, that's one aspect of it. And to me, that's almost one of the $1.5 trillion reasons I want the Department of War to have that kind of money to go after these guys. Because in many ways, you can have the adversaries around the world. That's an avenue of approach to hurt America. And frankly, 100,000 plus Americans have been killed every year under the Biden administration due to overdose. So to me, we've been at war for a very long time now with drugs. And under the Biden administration, it amped up to 11. So we've been under attack. 100,000 Americans have been killed, murdered. I say murdered during the Biden administration. And of course, it straddles other administrations too, but it really spiked in Biden's time. That that means maximum pressure, maximum use of armed force to go after these narco terrorists and their money and their leaders and take them down. That's one thing. Um, so you will save money in the future by not having these drugs into the United States and causing death and mayhem and all the drug gangs and everything else. By using funds to bring people down off the ledge, back from the ledge, who are addicted to drugs. That's just a win. That's great money spent on Americans to save lives. I'll spend money all day long to make that happen. Because then that person becomes a productive citizen again and back into the workforce or whatnot. And it's good news all over again. We will find the money somewhere, somehow, to make that happen.
Thank you. Here is refreshing question, a bit personal. You are a man of faith. How does your faith give you direction in this campaign, and how will it continue to support you in DC?
Um, it's not easy being a public speaker. I find that you can rehearse over and over again, and I've been doing this since January, so I'm not a professional um, or political public speaker. I've been in front of my brigade and division and talked to the army guys, but it's very different when you walk into a room as a brigade commander, like an auditorium, like a school auditorium. You can imagine that, and there's like 300 people in the room, and once you walk through that door, oof, everyone stands up, silence, and you walk to the center, and you say at ease, everyone sits down, you give a little speech, and then Sergeant Major says, on your feet, everyone raises up, and you walk off. You know, that's been my experience. Obviously, it's not my whole military experience has been like that, but you're very structured environment. But I find being a politician, or at least a politician in waiting, um, it'd be much more dynamic. You have to have the ability to kind of read the room, which is ability you have in the army anyway. But I find that I may rehearse my script over and over and over again, but when it's time to deliver, I um, I tend to just let myself go, and I feel maybe I'm being too ballsy by saying this that um, I just let God speak through me. I just open up. I just let it go. I don't try to put barriers. I mean, some barriers in my speech to make sure I'm not being crazy, but I do just let go. If you let go, the right words do follow, and I'm surprised every time it happens. So I'm not going to jinx myself. Hopefully, the next time this happens, I don't crash or burn. But I feel that's been the way for me.
That was beautiful, John. Thank you. You want to help Delaware homeowners by giving them federal tax deductions to make up for the state's high local property taxes. How will this make it easier for young people to buy their first home? My children are struggling to do just this, both with good jobs, and I'd like to know your vision to help this generation.
Yeah. So the recent passing of this housing bill, it's I've done a lot of research on this one. Studies show, and I hate saying studies show, but what I've read, the biggest obstacle to the growth of housing in America isn't the federal government, isn't this program or that program. What's really the logjam in building housing in urban areas and suburban areas is local zoning. This is and the reason why local zoning is such an issue, you have that NIMBY, not my backyard kind of issue. I'm having it here in my own neighborhood, an apartment complex. Builders want to build this apartment complex next to the neighborhood of single family housing, and we're all up in arms. No, no, no big apartment building in our neighborhood or next to it. Put it somewhere else. So you get a lot, no matter how much money or policy or what have regulations that happens or doesn't happen or gets cut. Once you get down to the local level, it's the ability of county councilmen, your state reps, to finagle the zoning and to get things done. It's been my conclusion. I mean, I've wrangled with this quite a while now. I mean, for sure, federal money helps, deregulation helps, but it really comes down to local zoning and how we want to live. Um, we've had this transition. I'm making too much information here, but we moved from dense urban environments from the 40s, 1930s and 40s, and then the explosion of suburbia in the 50s and 60s until now. To take that slinky and stretch that slinky out. Now, imagine that slinky is not very easy to push back together to bring everyone back into the urban zones because as we all know, a lot of our urban zones are just kind of soulless, or they used to have a soul, but they've been stripped of that life and livelihood, and now they're just kind of restaurants or businesses like big bank towers, what have you. Very little mixed residential and business, what have you. I think that slinking needs to be pushed back together, and it's a cultural thing. I From here in Wilmington, I do see pushes to go that way, but the real hook to getting that mixed urban zoning kind of happiness, where you have walkable communities and all that good stuff of having your work near where you live and your schools within walking distance, jobs. And to bring jobs back to cities. When you have, at least in the case of Delaware, when uh, all your manufacturing and all the entities that supported your manufacturing base left, when the globalist economy, strip mined America, it left a gap, a job gap in our inner cities. So people left. It was easier to go into the suburban area for the jobs and job centers outside than to reconsolidate into the city. It just didn't make sense. But now we're feeling the pressure where, hey, not my backyard. I have a nice community with single housing, what have you. I don't want these towers. I don't want these apartment buildings. But I think, long story short, it's up to your local commissioners and county councilmen and city councilmen and your state reps to make that a reality because it's culturally based.
Okay, thank you. This one is in regard to your vision of Delaware as being a tech hub, if you will, and inviting and incentivizing tech companies to be based in Delaware. This person asks, how will bringing in these crypto companies, futuristic corporations, create normal and good paying jobs for people in Newcastle County who don't have an advanced degree or experience with computers?
Find me a mechanic who is an engineer who designs a car. Find me a person who works on an airplane, mechanic or stewardess, who's also an aerospace engineer. The point is, when you bring advanced manufacturing, advanced engineering, there's a whole pyramid of jobs that has to be done. So when you build a research facility that plugs into a data center, that plugs into a nuclear reactor that powers it all, that just doesn't spring up. That doesn't just get maintained by itself. You need a fleet of skilled tradesmen to make that a reality. I can't emphasize enough how short of electricians we are in America. Um, just to give you, I don't have a hard number example, but we cannot build enough Navy ships right now in America to maintain our fleet because we don't have enough tradesmen. They've all been pushed away into more manual labor, or been told you have to go to university. That's the only way you'll strive in life. Don't worry about turning wrenches. That's going to be done in China. We're forced right now to go to South Korea to have them build Aegis cruisers, destroyers. There's a tech gap in the United States, technical gap. Tradesmen are gold. They're diamond right now. And you go down a route of being a tradesman with electricity, being an electrician or a welder, or all the requirements to maintain a data center, to maintain a research facility, maintain a nuclear facility. Yeah, you'll need to be the brain scientist behind building that thing. Make sure the reactor keeps spinning. You need guys who know how to handle the material. You need guys how to transport it back and forth and reboot the battery. These are all highly sought after skill sets that we don't have enough of. And you start building it in Delaware, whew. And again, in my vision, this is possible because we're small. Our governance structure is small enough, if run properly, if staffed properly by maybe more Republicans, that we could turn quicker than any other state in the union. New York is big, huge. California is huge. Delaware's small. We could turn on a dime based on new information, new innovation, or new technology. we can incorporate that really quickly, stand up companies, bring companies in. Then there is no limit to what Delaware can be. Delaware can truly be a diamond state because we're able to be so nimble and innovative at the small level, and the jobs would just start brimming out the wazoo. Once we start building energy independence in Delaware, attracting the companies to tap into energy, and tapping the companies to tap into compute and the brain power, the kids out of college and the trade schools, all that combined, it's perfect.
Great, thank you. Switching gears here. Folks, please put your questions in the chat. We have less than 10 minutes, and we would like to make sure that your questions are answered. If there is something that comes to mind later on after the meeting, please feel free to send me an email and I'll pass it on to John. Probably our last question of the night. Do you intend to address social media addiction and the dangers of social media for our children and young people?
This is a cultural issue and also a tech issue. And this goes also with um, algorithm alignment, not just AI, because AI has been around for a long time. It's only more visible now because of the chatbots. But more than ever, we need to develop the guardrails at the lowest level of algorithm development. So TikTok, we were talking about TikTok earlier. TikTok is highly addictive because of just the way it operates. You just want to keep flicking, and it's very overpowering for a young mind. So other countries have said, hey, if you're not over 14, you can't get a TikTok account, or there's some kind of age limit. Um, I This is America. I don't think you can do that kind of thing for technology um, because it's so socially integrative. I mean, parents and what have you, older kids, they have the phone, they have a computer, and it's going to be more about education. On one aspect of it, how to uh, protect your children from social media by training them yourself, but also there is some regulations we can tap into. The addictiveness of TikTok, I think there has to be a type of oversight by the government, not setting regulation. Kind of like how in Wall Street you have these accounting firms and accounting regulations, and they operate that by themselves. When something happens wrong, some craziness happens, you have the Security Exchange Commission jump right in and start throwing people in jail or making them pay fines. I think a similar thing can be done for the social media realm where they self-regulate, but they're still dad with a stick. When those self-regulators screw up, the stick comes out and smacks them around and puts everyone back in place. So what that stick is and what is this regulatory body that self-regulates the social media realm, I think that's in the talks because of AI. AI is making that front and center because of these powerful AIs. Who's going to regulate them? How does the government get involved and still have growth in that industry? Well, that can replicate any kind of industry standards we come up with, can replicate down into the social media realm. So more to follow, but I am pretty sure there's two sides of this coin. One, education, and two, a kind of federal soft stick, but a hard self-governance layer where industry polices itself, but we still have the power to, smack people, throw them in jail if they get out of hand.
Mhm. Well, thank you. Everyone, we only have a few minutes left. We want to be really respectful of your time, and we just thank you for being here, everybody on staff. And I know I speak for John as well, that we can't do this. We can't run this campaign, and we won't win the primary and the general without the support of people like you who have your own levels of giving and your own levels of willingness to pitch in. But at any level, John appreciates your prayers, your time, your conversation, your questions. Even after tonight, if there is something that you'd like to speak to John about, please make sure you get on the website, and you can submit a form or email me at campaign@shulli.org. We'd be happy to talk to you. He's busy this next month. He's going to be at events all over the state. Please check the calendar so that you can meet him there. And if you want to support in any other way, host a meet and greet, invite him to your barbecue, have him to your book club. All of these things have ripple effects, and we send energy out to everybody that we know. And in September, we expect to get a lot of it back in the polls. So we really want to say thank you so much for everything you give to this campaign and have given. John is supporting himself and his campaign largely on his own shoulders. We really appreciate donations that we have received, but he is so committed to this cause. As I said before, it's his retirement plan that he is investing in the United States of America. So if you'd like to pitch in and help, we really appreciate every dollar and every minute. So we'll be here again next week, same time. Maybe a different link. Please keep an eye on your emails. And John, do you have any last words that you would like to leave our guests with?
Um, I I was trying to think of something as you were talking. The best I can say is, I'll quote President Trump: "The best is yet to come." So we are moving forward as a society. We're learning how not to be globalists, but how to be um, Americans again. And the truest ideal of the American system of economics, we're self-reliant. We're still that pioneering, can-do America. And all we have to do is kind of get government out of the way as much as possible and let America do the rest.
Great words. Well, thanks, y'all. Hope you have a great night, great rest of your week, and we hope to see you again next week.
All right.
Bye.
Take